Greetings fanboys and fangirls, Jared here with another Masters of the Universe video. And today we're going to be talking about the final reveals, or at least so far, the final reveals from San Diego Comic-Con. And I kind of waited as late as I could to see if they would reveal any more, if anything else would be said. But I think we finally have the roundup of all the information that we got. And of course, don't forget that we're always doing reviews and other news videos about Masters here on the channel. So if you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe and hit that like button because we really do appreciate it. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and have a look. I want to start with getting just a couple of better looks at some of the figures that we could barely see last time I made a video, when there was just some very blurry phone pics, but now we have some more detailed ones from all sorts of different sources. Keep in mind, these are not my pictures, and we're very lucky to have sources like For Eternia and Pixel Dan out there to give us these good looks at the figures. So here we can see the brand new Battle Armor He-Man from Masters Universe Revolution. I really do like the kind of more up-close look at this. Of course, this was posted originally by Toy Arc, it looks like, which is a site I visit pretty much daily. I think here the best thing that we can see is a better look at the animated head sculpt. And I definitely think that this does solidify that it's the best take we've seen so far on the animated model for He-Man in Revolution. I will say that his jaw, at least from this angle, looks maybe slightly big. I know it's a weird thing to say about He-Man, almost like it's elongated somehow. But overall, it is their best attempt so far. So I do think that it looks good and a lot better than what we'd seen previously. Of course, you can see over here, we can have a little bit better look at things like the power vest and the alternate plate for the battle armor, and they both look really good. Definitely having a little bit of that silvery paint. It is kind of funny to see that part have the silvery paint and the rest of the armor be such a flat animated gray. But I'll be curious to see how the figure actually turns out in hand. You can also see that we have Triclops here. It's a lot more obvious to see Triclops' scales now, and you can even see one of the eyes as you turn his visor around. I really do like the gold highlights there on the armor. That is a really nice touch. And of course that sash that simulates the old comics. And I especially like that the furry shorts are more scaly here, so that does help complete the look. And he has his sword and even an alternative visor that you can plug in. Here is yet another reveal that we can get a better look at now, and this is the new Eternia Man-at-Arms. As you can see, it really does look good, a lot more up close now, and we can tell a lot more about it. I think this clean-shaven head has a lot of personality to it, so I am glad about how that turned out. I definitely like the facial expression they went with, looks very determined. You can see that he is going to be packed out with the mustache, and it is a very pointy mustache. If you have a look down here, you can actually see a little bit more going on here. It's the most mustachioed that I think Man-at-Arms has ever been. And you can also see that the helmet is different, with this being more of like a classic. And again, they're making sure that it's not just furry underwear. He does have like leather straps down there. A little bit of cool info that came out of the show. We can actually see Hordak over here from Revolution. And I really do like Hordak's armor that he has. I think that's a cool look for the character. But especially cool is Keith David will be playing his voice. Keith David has been everyone from Goliath and Gargoyles to Spawn, and the old Spawn animated series used to come on HBO. And he has the most immaculate voice that Brandon and I have referred to him as King David for years, because this guy is the king. So I'm really excited about this. Going on the theme of better pictures of things we'd already seen revealed, this is a better picture of the Meg Foster Evil Lyn. And as you can see, it does look really good. Definitely a lot more pink in tone on the bodysuit there than at first I realized. And I will also give them some credit because I think the armor is a good halfway point between silver and gold. It should probably be shinier, of course, and it should probably be a little more gold. But I actually think that this is a decent halfway point, so it's not too bad, and this figure actually looks fairly close to production. This doesn't exactly look like a hand-painted sample, but more of just a factory production figure. So I'm hoping that pre-order comes pretty soon. And you can see that the Cosmic Key is actually like a phasing version, so I think this is a nice, more close look at the figure. Probably the figure we got the least good look at was the new Eternia Snout Spout. And seeing it up close and personal here is truly just a feast. I mean, goodness, they have really outdone themselves with the amount of detailing on kind of the techno parts of the head and the helmet here. You can even see that there appears to be some articulation in the snout there, to where you're going to have some hinges. You can do all kinds of cool things with posing it. I really love the added paint details. You can see that there's some shading in there in the abs and things that just highlights the muscles and makes him look a lot less gaudy and gives him some definition. I really do like the big dial belt that he has and the giant tubes, and he even includes some alternative hands, and I'm just very impressed by the detailing with this guy. As you can see, there's even a water effect that's going to plug right into the snout, and of course he has his axe, kind of simulating a firefighter look. So this one's one I'm really excited about. And I really liked this picture that For Eternia posted, because you can actually see how giant Snout Spout is. He's a lot bigger than your standard figure. So I'm very excited about that, and it probably means Snout Spout might be a deluxe. Here's a better look at Mechanic, and I really do like that they've been sure to vac metalize those goggles right there, so that's nice, and I do like what they did with the actual head sculpt. Other than that, there's not much else to say that we've already observed, because, I mean, we could already see him pretty close up, so he still looks really nice, though. And one figure I was glad to get a little bit better look at was Lady Slither from the last video, because she's just very detailed, and I love what they did, and it was great to see this very deluxe figure a little bit more close up. Alright, and getting right into the new stuff, we have the brand new Masterverse New Eternia Trap Jaw. This is one of those releases that, looking at it, I think it is very possible, likely as a matter of fact, that this could end up being the best trap jaw that's been made so far. He reminds me more of some of the statues that we've seen of the character over the years, and I'm just very impressed with everything. Not only does he include the standard kind of attachments that we're used to, like the hook and the blaster, but he has this really nicely styled sword here. Not only that, but we can actually see that he has this giant jaw that attaches to the arm, which is a really cool effect. And from my understanding, I think that you can actually attach it to his face up here. Here he is in a little bit more of a neutral pose with the jaw closed. And I have to say, this is just an incredible looking rendition of the character. And I can't imagine there being much better than this. So I have to say I am quite impressed with what they managed to do here. Of course, I know that some people are probably a little tired of buying the same characters in different styles and scales, but hey, I'm a fanatic, so I'm going to continue to. Plus, I think genuinely that this is the best that the characters looked in action figure form. Alright, so some more Masterverse that were revealed that day. We have our brand new Gwildor. Now, this was a very surprising reveal, because I thought if we were going to see a Gwildor, he'd just be in the 87 movie style, but no, he's going to be in Masters of the Universe Revolution. So this is a very impressive thing that they've done. I'm very pleased with it. I really do like the style of it. I think that it's pretty true to the 1987 film, and it has lots of great original sculpting to it. Brandon had suggested to me maybe this is who Shatner was supposed to play in the show. I'm not really sure, but I'd forgotten all about there being that announcement. Either way, he looks pretty traditional and is a great little mix between the Billy Barty costumed version in the film and the original toy version. So I am looking forward to this one. Here's a figure that I was kind of wondering if we would get. It's Orko in his, spoiler alert, resurrection outfit from the end of Revelation, and I think it looks amazing. You have just such great work being done here. I'm not even sure there's anything that's being reused from the original figure. I really do like the transparent base and the effects and everything swirling around him. I think that it's a really cool look, and of course I suppose this is how Orko will appear in Masters of the Universe Revolution. Here's one that's sure to be divisive. This is the brand new Skeletor, but this is him reformatted into that robotic form that we started to see happen at the end of Revelation with Motherboard. And I think that it's a really cool look. It's not really exactly what I expected or anything, but it is really nice. I like especially how he kind of has a Metallo look going, like the Superman villain. Metallo in the comics and the cartoon had a big kryptonite core in his chest that powered him, and that's kind of what this reminds me of. Also of note is that his Havoc staff has fused into his right hand, so I think that's a really gnarly look. And I'll be curious to see how much of Skeletor's mind he's even retained in this, or if he's kind of like a techno zombie. I'm not really sure, but it's a nice design. Speaking of nice designs, we can see more of that beautiful new Masterverse packaging style. I really have to hand it to them. I think they've done a great job with this packaging, and it's especially cool to see Skeletor's new design over there in such great painted glory. So again, another big home run for them in the packaging department. Switching over to Origins for a moment, they did have some new reveals from the Filmation series. Now, in case you missed this, they did confirm that the Filmation versions of these characters are going to be at retail in 2024. So there's a decent little wait until these things actually show up, but I can definitely understand why they would have done it like this, because let's face it, Origins in its current form with the more obscure characters hasn't been doing all that well at brick and mortar. So I definitely think that this was an appropriate way for them to refresh the line. Honestly, I just thought that they would be doing some new heads and a few new parts, but nope. They have actually redone the bodies completely, as you can see, and even the legs. So everything is different, and they confirmed that during their panel. So just as I suspected, this is completely different in terms of sculpting. So I think Beastman here looks fantastic. I think he's one of the very best ones they revealed. Worth noting is something that I was kind of curious about because of the way they posed He-Man up here, but they confirmed that these figures will be able to stand straight up, which is something that you can't really do with the current Origins figures, which are meant to be posed in a more squat way, like the original toys. Next up, we have one of those elusive original vintage characters in Origins, Extendar. Now, here's the thing. Extendar, along with other original vintage characters that are going to be made in Origins to attempt to complete the line, are only going to be available on Mattel Creations. And that's it. I know a lot of people are a little bummed out about that. I'm not so bummed out about it because honestly at this point I would kind of rather go back to just ordering something as long as the quantities are okay. If you look at something like Duplico, that's been a disaster because he's been a brick and mortar retail exclusive. So I would much rather just order these, especially with these last few kind of obscure toy characters. I think that it's important that we manage expectations about how it's even possible to release these. If we want Masters to stay on the shelf, then we want Mattel to do what they're doing right now, which is developing a new way for it to stay on the shelves by offering those original cartoon figures. Besides, I think it will give an opportunity for figures not to be skimped on whatsoever if they offer it direct to consumer like this. You can see that Extendar has a beautiful pearlescent paint job. I certainly hope that this carries forward into production because it is awfully impressive. I also like how that he is still fully modular, and he comes with these extendable pieces that you just put in between the limbs and even on the arms here. So there's a lot of things to be happy about with the way this guy turned out. Cyclone, yep, here he is. Now, this is an interesting figure for me because this is actually one of the only vintage figures that I owned as a kid. So he definitely has a big place in my heart. I was always a little confused though about why he looked so much like He-Man. I think over the years Mattel has definitely made an effort to try to differentiate his look from He-Man. If you ask me, that original toy just looks like blue He-Man in a different costume. So I definitely think that they're trying something a little different here. I also think that he almost looks slightly Asian here. And I've kind of wondered if that's been their intention with Cyclone for a few years. I've never really been sure of it, but I think here it's a little more obvious that yes, that may be what they're going for, especially since he's sort of like a samurai, so I think that they want to be sensitive to that. Also, I do believe, yes, that this is a lenticular right here on his chest, as it should be, with the awesome little belt buckle. I especially like the effects pieces that he includes. Since there are a lot of people concerned about this head being so different, I do think that it's a good possibility that they may include a head that looks like the original. Now, I'm not saying that it'll definitely happen, but I think it could. Worst comes to worst, we could always take a faker head and slightly alter it and put the helmet on it. So you would hate to have to do that, but I guess it's an option. While we're taking a better look at the packaging, it would probably be a wise idea to talk about some of the things that Pixel Dan asked in his video and some of the responses. Pixel Dan is a really nice guy, and I'm always glad to see his videos. He does a wonderful job. One thing Pixel Dan is always very careful about is making sure that he asks questions in the right way to where he can continue to have access to these guys so that we can of course see the videos and get the information. So I always appreciate how he's careful about those kinds of things. One thing that he definitely hinted at in the right way and asked about in all the subtlety that he could was about if the line has a big future or not. And they very enthusiastically said that yes, it did. And as a matter of fact, they have multiple years planned for the line as long as it continues to, do well. And it's always glad to hear the doom and gloom kind of dispelled. And it's funny that it always has to take one of these every year to get that dispelled a little bit. But it's definitely a good thing that it was. He also asked about the possibility of some more playsets and giant characters, and those are still possibilities, but it does sound like all of that will have migrated to Mattel Creations. So I definitely think that that's where you're going to find those exclusively from now on, which is fine with me. It's okay. So I definitely think that there are a few takeaways from this San Diego Comic-Con. Number one, Mattel did not have a gigantic item like the Eternia playset to promote this time around. Last year, there was such a buzz and such an energy around that piece and them trying to make sure that the crowdfund was successful that I think it's really hard to match that. So I think it's completely fair to say that this year just probably wasn't as big. There's nothing wrong with that because last year was so huge and they've not shipped out new Eternia yet, and it's going to be a little while until they ship that out. So I think that that is just fine, and it's certainly something that I don't fault them for. I think it might also be fair to say that Origins is in its later years. Origins as a toy line, they're of course winding up on a lot of the vintage releases, and there's nothing wrong with that either. All the Masters of the Universe toy lines kind of have this life cycle where for several years Mattel does their very best to try to get out all of the original characters, something that they've only been able to do a couple of times. So it's great to see that Origins, I feel very confident, will join those ranks, just like Masters of the Universe Classics will manage to probably get out every single one of the vintage releases with its own unique releases, just like Classics did. I've never considered Classics a failure. I was only ever sad that it just ended. But it's also great that these lines ever happened in the first place. So it's awesome that we've made it this far. However, I do think Mattel this time won't just end the line completely or put it on hiatus. I do believe that there's a lot of hope that they'll probably continue it in some form, or at least they're making preparations to try to make sure that they have their bases covered in several ways to make sure that we're not left high and dry. Either way, I can't wait to see what they come up with next, but it does look like that we have a very fun 2023 and 24 ahead of us, even if we didn't see the slew of releases that we did last year. The team have really done a great job on these Masters figures, and have definitely led to an incredible 4 years that we've enjoyed this line so far, and it just continues to go above and beyond. What was my favorite thing that I saw at the show? I'm almost a sucker for the 87 movie products, so I was really happy to see the Evil Lyn. I don't necessarily think it was the best thing we saw. I think maybe the coolest thing was to see Mattel go above and beyond and redo the bodies and everything for their Masters of the Universe cartoon series. That was a big surprise, and I really didn't expect to see them put that much effort into these. So I am a little shocked. That's probably my favorite surprise of the show. I think that the thing that probably turned out the best to me was Snout Spout. I'm very impressed with how he turned out, and I think it looks really cool. I'm also thinking about doing a video talking about my thoughts about the seemingly doomed Masters of the Universe movie that was recently canceled at Netflix officially. And especially with Barbie coming out and being such a smash hit, it might be a good time to talk about some of my feelings about a potential Masters movie. Either way, I thank you so much for watching today. Of course, if you've enjoyed the video at all, this would be a great time to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. I definitely want to thank all the folks that took these pictures. I did not. The ones that you're looking at right now are from the Toy Ark, a website that I visit practically every day, so I definitely want to kind of plug them a little bit right there because they're a great site. And let me know down below, which reveal was your favorite from the show, and what are you looking forward to? With that out of the way, God bless you and yours, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out.